Behold, the origin of Peach. Hi, I'm Peach. You seemed okay with that.
Yeah.
Hey everyone, it's me, Aaron.
I'm Michelle.
This is our post-Geekout reaction for Alpha, which is not just a boy and his dog story, it's the first boy and his dog story, because this is a movie about... We weren't Neanderthals, but we weren't people yet. It's whatever we were during the Ice Age. I am not a history or science major. So, I'm also kind of stupid. But basically it's the story of the first person during that period of time to ever domesticate a wolf, which would eventually lead to the mighty Peach. Yum. Munch.
Munch, munch.
Look at that hunter instinct. Eating that finger. Eat it. Anyway. So yes. It's a pretty basic story. I basically just told you the entire plot. But what it is in more detail is it's the son of the chief of this tribe, and he's going out on his first hunt ever. They have to gather up food for the winter, and during this hunt, he gets knocked over a cliff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's kind of brutal. Like, this is how the movie opens. It opens with them hunting some buffalo, and one of the buffalo, like, what they basically have to do, they have to throw their spears to trick the buffalo into curving around the spears so that they run off the edge of a cliff. And yeah, you see these buffalo just fall off of this cliff. Like, it's not like they cut away from it or anything, but one buffalo gets away, comes at the son, snags him, and then goes over the cliff with him. And he ends up surviving, but it's after like a couple days, he finally wakes up and they all thought that he was dead. So they're all gone, so he has to find his way back home. And during the middle of his trip back, he ends up injuring this wolf. Like, a wolf pack is trying to attack him, and he stabs one of them back with his knife. But then as he's about to, like, leave after the other wolves have left, he's looking at it like, I can't kill it. I can't leave like this. They establish early on, like, they capture a pig, and the chief is like, it's your duty. You be the one to deliver the killing blow. He's like, I can't do it. So they establish early on, it's like, no, he can't bring himself to harm an animal just yet. So yeah, he kind of picks up this wolf, takes it along, cleans off the wound, gives it some water, and he has also broken his leg because he fell off of a freaking cliff. So he's recovering for a couple days, the wolf is recovering next to him for a couple of days, my phone is going off because I didn't put it on mute. So during that time, the wolf kind of like bonds with him, and now the wolf won't leave him alone, and they basically just make their trip back using the stars as their guides, and they start to bond, get closer with each other along the trip. That's the film. That's pretty much the entire plot right there. But there's one thing that I will say right now. You saw the trailer for this. You didn't see the movie, but you saw the trailer.
Yeah.
They advertise this like being the feel-good film of the summer. Like, oh, it's a boy and his dog. It's like, we all love those stories, right? Oh, it's so heartwarming and you can't wait to see these two go out there on their adventures and become fast friends. This movie is dark. Really, really dark.
Well, I'm not surprised considering this takes place during the Ice Age when, like, things were, like, much more brutal. It was all about survival and everything.
Yes, and I will say, they established that early on, because the opening of this movie is them hunting the buffalo. And you see them, like, crawling along in the mud and in the shit, which later you find out, yeah, they smear, like, shit all over their body to hunt these things. Like, they don't cut away from that. They're like, no, this is what they would do. This is absolutely what they would do during these hunts. And you see them crawling along, and you see one of them there, and these giant ants are crawling along his hand, and he's not reacting to it at all. I was like, oh man, yeah, they're really establishing like what big time hunters these guys are, because hey man, giant ants start crawling along my arm, like, but no, he's just sitting there, and these ants are crawling along his arm. I'm like, okay, so they're establishing that, and then he just goes. It's like, oh shit. Wow, yeah, okay.
Gotta eat when you can.
They're trying to establish authenticity of this thing. I'll give them some credit on that thing. And yeah, throughout the rest of this film, they really do kind of lean into, no, this is how brutal it would be. Like, after the son gets knocked over the cliff, it then cuts to a flashback of what led him to being on the hunt, which, it's weird that they didn't start with that. I don't know why they would hunt, like, I keep thinking about, I really have no idea why they would start with him already there being knocked off the cliff and not start with like, oh, let me build up these characters, let me build up the father, let me build up the son.
Maybe it's just like to grab the audience's attention.
I guess, but my feeling is you do that with a TV show where it's like, oh, okay, this isn't interesting to me, change channel. I paid my ticket, I'm sitting there in the theater.
It's like, freeze frame, you're probably wondering how I got into this situation. Well, let me tell you.
Record scratch, yeah. Kind of, that is what they do. But it shows them, like, going up to each, like, child in the tribe, and each of them are trying to make, like, the tips of spears, yes. And the chief is, like, examining all of them, is like, fail, 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 fail. Goes up to the son, rides his thumb over it, and he starts bleeding over it, and he doesn't even flinch at it bleeding, but you see blood coming off of it and everything. It's like, oh shit, they didn't cut away from that. They didn't cut away from blood in this. Isn't this like PG-13? Can't you like not really do blood in a PG-13 film? That's kind of odd that they did that. But after they do that, he's like, you pass. You will be joining us. And then he says, pain comes with us on our journey. And then all of them just start beating the shit out of each other. And it's not like they start beating the shit out of each other and the chief is like, whoa, 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 hey, stop, stop, stop. The chief just looks, just like, well, they're just like brutally just, like some guy is beating the shit out of his son right behind him. He's just like, I said, pain will accompany us, this is it. It's like, wow, this is your opening tradition before each hunt, is beat each other to a bloody pulp. Wow. And also, one thing I'll say, nobody speaks English in this thing. I don't know if this is like a real language that they were speaking, but yeah, they stick to whatever this language is the entire film.
Yeah, I figured that would be the case, because like, you know, in the trailers, you don't see anyone speaking English, so like, I don't even think there was like a narrator, there was just...
Well, there was the guy who was like, the tale of man's best friend. There was that guy.
Yeah, but...
But no, yeah, no one speaks in the trailers, and it wasn't until I was watching this movie that hit me that I didn't realize, oh yeah, this is all going to be subtitled. I didn't think about that. And kudos to this film on that. And I understand why they didn't advertise that. They really wanted people to come into this thing like, oh, feel good caveman adventures with the boy and his dog. No, because if you actually told people what this movie was, you would have gotten an audience, but not nearly as big of an audience as what you will get with the way that you did advertise it.
Yeah, it's like the vibe I actually kind of got was Far From Home Adventure of Yellow Dog. You ever heard of it? Seen that?
I've heard of it, but I've never seen it.
Yeah, it's kind of like, you know, a boy and his dog lost in the woods, so they have to like survive on their own. So it's I kind of got that feeling from this movie, except obviously like much more intense because, you know, it's the Ice Age and everything. So
yeah, and after the kid like gets knocked off the cliff, I mean, they do just go, yeah, this is how brutal this stuff is. I don't know about you guys out there, but whenever I watch a film where someone's like trapped in the woods, they're trapped on a desert island, or, you know, they're basically far away from civilization, I always like to play a game with myself where I go, how long would I be able to survive in this situation? And with this one, I was like, nope, dead instantly. Dead instantly. Like I said, he falls off of a cliff, but he doesn't fall all the way to the bottom. He falls on like this little tiny ridge that's poking out, like too far down for anyone to grab him, too high up for anyone to climb up to him. And he's just sitting there for like a day, just unconscious. He wakes up when a vulture tries to eat him. And I don't mean like a vulture comes down and like tap, 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 tap. No, vulture comes down, sniffs at him, bites into him, and then he wakes up, oh, fuck! And it's like, oh, okay. But then he's trying to climb down, and it starts thundering and raining like crazy, and it's raining so much there's a flood underneath him, and he's just hanging on as like it is raining that hard. Yeah, this movie from square one makes you realize this kid's life is shit. Everything sucks with this kid. And eventually he falls into it, and when he comes out of the water, he looks at his foot. He takes his boot off and looks at it. It is giant and purple and swollen, and he has to snap his leg back into place by sticking it between two rocks and going. And man, it was in that moment which I don't even know how to do that. If I tried that, I would probably pop it even further in the wrong direction. I would knock my foot off if I tried to do this. I would so be dead in this moment. So even though this movie tries to set up as like, oh, he's the weakest of the hunters, it still lets you know he's more badass than you are sitting in the movie theater. They let you know what kind of a kid this is. But after that, he runs into the dog and everything, and yeah, it is kind of nice.
Would you call him a dog yet, or is he still
a wolf? It's what they actually got was like a really big furry dog.
I know, but it's like obviously they couldn't have like an actual wolf for the movie.
Because that's one thing that I don't think people understand. Real wolves are huge.
Oh yeah.
Real wolves are giant creatures, so it's not that. It is like a dog, but yeah, it is a wolf.
It's supposed to be a wolf in the movie.
It's supposed to be a wolf in the movie. Which I will say, I'm applying this film a lot right now, but I do have some critiques. And one of the critiques is that this film, it's on a very cheap budget. But I will still applaud it because they work their ass off to try and do stuff with it. Like, yeah, when you see them like fighting the buffalo, you know they're not real buffalo. Like, it's very obvious. But they tried. I mean, you look at it like, man, this thing probably only had a budget of like maybe 30 million. They did about as good as you can do with a 30 million budget. Again, that's just me guessing at what this is. Peach is trying to chew my leg. But yeah, so there are moments like that look kind of cheap. And it's like, yeah, the wolf is basically just a dog. But there's other moments in here where I had to kind of sound like, even for a cheap budget, I kind of have to call in that, like, again, you see them doing some authentic shit. You see them, like, covering themselves in shit to hunt these creatures down. There's a moment where he grabs a rabbit, and one of the things is that he can't learn how to start a fire. Like, he keeps getting frustrated, and he has to, like, learn patience. And that's one of the lessons he learns. Like, later on in the film, he learns how to make a fire. The first time that he is actually able to successfully kill an animal, he just starts eating it, just like raw meat coming out of his mouth, because, hey man, he can't start this fire. And also, because the dog kept trying to eat it instead, and so he had to fight the dog off. And so he's like, no, screw you, I don't know, see that? I eat first. Which is kind of a great thing, because he then had to turn to the dog and say, patience. And I'm like, oh shoot, the dog is helping him to learn patience because he couldn't learn patience when trying to start the fire. Okay, I get your movie. All right, that's pretty nice. But there are some moments in here in which it does get like really gross with like how much they try to portray. No, this is what they had to go through. But when it comes to the way that everyone looks, like 90% of the time in this film, they look really clean. Like, all of them look like they just had a fresh shower. Like, this kid's hair is always perfectly, like, shampooed and conditioned. And all of their clothes, they're leather jackets. They're not wearing, like, leather just stitched together. Like, it's leather jackets. And it's like, man, I can see, like, the Abercrombie & Fitch tag on the back of these things. Like, there's moments where this film does... Again, this was a cheap film, but for like 80% of the film, they do their best with the budget they had. But that other 20% of the time, it's like, oh, yeah, okay, that cheapness is kind of creeping in here. But after it gets to the point where he has the dog with him, it's weird. That should be like the center point of this movie. That should be the main thing that you're focusing on. But at the same time, that's where a lot of my problems with this film are. Because they move fast after that. They go from one thing right into the next. Like, it feels like him getting to the hunt, them establishing the background of him and his dad and all that, they took their time with that. When it actually gets to him with the dog, which should have been the main focus of this film, that doesn't happen until halfway through the movie. And then after that, it was just like one thing right into the next, just moving. And it goes through like some stereotypical beats. Like, I'll save like spoiler stuff until the end after we get through the score. But there's some stuff that it's not even a spoiler because it is the stereotypical stuff that you would see happen in these types of movies. Like, there is the moment in which he and the dog get separated, but I will say it's not the stereotypical like, go on, get out of here, I don't even want you anymore. Dog. No, it is more of like a noble, like, no, this is what's best kind of thing. It's like, oh, okay, I can appreciate that. That's pretty nice. But they're separated for maybe 2 minutes before immediately getting back together again. Sorry for my very loud claps. But yeah, they're separated for like 2 minutes, and it's just like, yeah, man, we gotta move this story along. You know they're getting back together. You know how this works. You saw the trailer. Come on, go. But I will say, even though the movie moves fast after that point, it's still pretty effective at getting you to like these characters. Because there does, like I said, it gets dark later on. In fact, there is one moment in here in which I was stunned by how dark it got. I will not spoil what happens, but all I will say is that there comes a moment in here in which I went, oh my god, are they going to commit cannibalism? Like, that thought actually crossed my mind in a film that advertises itself as being the feel-good movie of the summer. Yeah. But at the same time, I'm not like, oh, you're just being dark for dark's sake. No, they want to cram it into your skull. This kid quite possibly could die. And you know what? They do a damn good job of doing that. Because in like the last 10 minutes of this movie, I was like, oh my god, are they actually going, like, you don't normally think that in a movie. Normally in a movie, you're always like, yeah, they'll be fine. It's the protagonist. You know it's going to be all right. I legit thought that both the boy and the dog were going to die in this film.
But does the dog die?
I'm not going to, that's a spoiler.
Fine, fair enough.
That's the spoiler territory. I'm not going to say that. But at the same time, I kind of have to. So on one hand, I have to applaud them because they got me that invested in these two characters. They made me care that much about them. But at the same time, I also have to take some points off because, like, of course you got me invested in this. It was a dog looking like it was going to die for half an hour. Anybody with a soul is going to be invested in this. It kind of feels almost like cheat sheets on how to, like, it's like, oh, do you want to make your audience care? Put the dog in mortal danger. A lot. But in all fairness, the human is in mortal danger. A lot. Like, that's just what this is. This movie wants you to know they could possibly die. And mission accomplished. I was on the edge of my seat at moments in this film. But for the vast majority of this movie, even though it was able to get me invested, yeah, that quick pace still does kind of hurt it. But also at the same time, this movie does almost everything well. Almost everything in this movie is good. Not a lot is great. That's one of the complaints that I'll have, is that it was always like just at that edge of going into great territory, but it never could do it for me. So because of that, I'm going to give this movie a 7. It is good. I would absolutely recommend seeing it, but, you know, I wouldn't say pay full price for this thing.
Right. Because, like, I was debating whether to not see this because it has a dog in it, and I love dogs, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know if it'd be worth it or not.
Like, man, it is right at that cusp of, like, should you wait till it comes out on Netflix and DVD, or should you see it in theater? Like, it's right at that edge where it's like, man, I don't know what I would tell people, but I think, you know what, here's the thing. If you got MoviePass, if MoviePass will let you see this, go to it, because in all honesty, I switched off of MoviePass. MoviePass, it was a great thing for a while, but
I switched off. AMC,
I have the AMC A-list thing now.
Yeah, so which I
like, which I like so much more. This is not like a paid ad or anything. This is just me coming in here and saying, if you are turned off by what MoviePass has become, and you have AMC's readily available in your area, switch to the AMC A-list. It's great for me because with MoviePass, I had to go out once a day to see a movie, and then I would have to come back, then go back, then come back, then go back. With AMC A-list, I can see 3 movies right in a row there in the theater, and you can see them in IMAX, you can see them in 3D, you get to pass the big-ass concession line and go straight to the front. It's really nice. I'm really enjoying this way more than MoviePass. But yeah, so if you have one of those programs, AMC A-list, MoviePass, it's great for that, because you don't have to pay anything. But for everybody else out there, you know, especially if you're in our neighborhood where there are motorcyclists riding by outside, I don't even know if you guys can hear that. But if you live in, like, you know, a big city like us where movie tickets are like $17 each, I don't know about that, but if you can go to like a matinee showing, or if you live in one of those areas where movie tickets are only like $10, yeah, man, it's worth that, I'd say. Okay, spoiler time.
Okay.
Just for anybody out there who's like, no, I need to know, do they live or die? Like, I will go and see the movie, but I'm not going to see this movie if a dog dies. The dog lives.
I had a feeling it would. Because, you know, it's the origin story of the first dog, so it's like, it would be kind of stupid to have the dog die.
That is what I had to keep telling myself, because they really make it look like... They really make it look like both the dog and the kid are going to die. And I had to keep telling myself, they have to get back to the village or else none of this works. Or else this origin story doesn't exist. It'd be like if Spider-Man got bit by the spider and then got hit by a car on his way home. It's like, no, it doesn't quite work. Yeah, no. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, he kind of has to make it back. But there is a moment in which like he falls into water and it's freezing water, and when he gets out he has to take all of his clothes off and build a fire, and he like cuddles up to the dog because that's what you're supposed to do if you actually get wet, if all your clothes get soaking wet. And after that, he starts coughing up blood. Like a lot. Like there's a lot of moments where he's coughing up blood, there's a lot of moments where he's right, he falls down, when he stands back up, the snow has got blood all over it. And man, I was looking at that like, oh my god.
Quite a lot of blood.
Yeah, it's like
is this rated PG-13?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I believe it is.
Like, cause I could have sworn it was rated PG, but it's like.
Oh shit, is it PG?
Like, I don't know. I only saw like the trailers, but the trailers make it seem like a PG.
It does totally make it seem like a PG film. It absolutely does, but no, there's lots of blood all over this movie. Like, not like gushing or anything.
Yeah, but just like.
But like enough that you can't help. PG-13, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But I thought you couldn't show blood pretty much at all in a PG-13 film. I thought that instantly made it R. Like maybe you can't have it like going out.
Like maybe you can't like show like the actual like wound or something.
Maybe that's what it is. That might be what it is. Because yeah, you don't see an actual wound. You see him cough and look at his hand. But then there are moments where like the dad is like cutting his finger on thing. It's like, geez.
But I don't know. That's like,
pretty small.
Yeah, it's like, you know, getting a paper cut compared to like getting your slicing your entire stomach open or something like that. So. But
yeah, so throughout that's like the last 10 minutes of this movie is them in not just the snow but a tundra. Like they are walking through constant snow, like to the point where you can't see anything around them. And there's no place for them to get away from the snow. The dog is constantly falling over and limping. He's constantly coughing up blood. That's like 10 minutes of this fucking movie. Man, it had me just sitting there like, oh god, no. Oh god, no. But at the same time, yeah, you're showing me a dog get tortured for 10 minutes here. It's like, did you really establish like me liking this dog? Or is it just that humans have a natural like love for small animals and they don't want to see them in pain? Yeah, it was rough at the end of this.
It was rough.
Yeah. I realized what I said. For anybody who was wondering what the cannibalism thing that I was talking about, there is a moment in which it looks like he's got some hope. He comes running up to, he sees like a little hut out in the middle of the snow, which is another problem. Like I said, it moves fast. When it finally gets to the point in which it's snowing, yeah, man, you see like a close-up on like an ice, on like a snowflake being formed, like there's like the ice like forming across the screen. Next thing you know, everything is covered in snow. It's like, really? You're not gonna give me like that first snowfall? Because like you could like make that like a terrifying experience. Like, oh no, it's finally happening. The snow is coming. No, just bam, smash cut into snow. But yeah, there's a moment in which they finally see like a little hut. There's someone sitting out front of it with a bow and arrow, and they come running up to him, and they get to him. He's frozen, like icicles off of his face, and then he runs in the hut and starts tearing it apart, looking for food. There's no food. And then there's a moment which he's looking at the man there. I was like, oh no! No, don't tell me. Are you about to go full Wendigo on this thing? Oh no! And he just takes the man's bow and arrow and says, thank you. And I was like, okay, that's better than you. That's better than you eating him. But in all honesty, things have been so shit for you. If you did eat him, I would not blame you for that. So yeah. That is, again, that's how dark this movie gets. I literally thought, oh my god, they're going to eat this dead body. But yeah, that's the kind of film that is, in which anytime that you do get some hope, it is immediately taken away from you again. But the big kind of, like the last big spoiler is that the dog really looks like it's going to die. And he brings the dog back, he's walking back with the dog in his arms, which, again, sometimes the CGI doesn't look that great. And when he's got the dog in his arms, it is CGI, and you can... It looks fine, it looks fine, it looks fine. He puts the dog down. That ain't how a dog moves. Yeah, it's like, okay, it's like, then it's that little bit there where it kind of like tears off.
Like they couldn't afford like just like a stuffed dog to carry?
I think the face would have kind of like given it away. Like you can't like... Oh,
like I thought like the face would be hidden or something.
Maybe something like that, but I mean, you would still need to like be panting, I guess, kind of, or something. I don't know what way it is. Point is, he gets back. The tribe like embraces him. He's like going, Alpha needs help, because Alpha is the dog's name. And man, a fear that I had in my head this entire time was he would get back to the tribe and then go, it's him, he's back. he's being chased by a wolf. Bam! Like, I thought that's how this movie was going to end. It does not, thankfully.
Like, so does he carry the dog back?
He carries the dog back in.
Oh, okay.
But that's what I thought was going to happen before
like, I thought they were going to be like, hey, he brought food.
That's... I kind of thought that
Because, like, that's the whole point. He went on a hunting trip,
yeah,
so...
I thought that too. But no, it cuts to them. They've got him at, like, the medicine woman of the tribe. He's getting taken care of, but she's examining the wolf. And then she goes around to the back of the wolf and she pulls out a puppy. And then she pulls out another puppy. And then it cuts to, which, again, the CGI, the worst CGI in this whole thing is when they're holding up the baby wolves. That's the worst CGI in the whole film.
Well, it's not like they can get an actual newborn baby wolf or baby dog. That would just be...
I guess, yeah, I guess.
Yeah, it's like, taking them away from their mother that young would just be kind of messed up.
Yeah, it would be. But it was kind of weird. Like, it makes me kind of want to go back and watch this again to see if there were, like, any clues to that.
Yeah, it's like...
Because I didn't pick up on this at all. Like, the wolf doesn't look like she's pregnant or anything. But they get... After that, there's then a cut to the boy. He's sitting on a rock with Alpha next to him. And, like, the other little baby cubs come up to him. And... pups.
Pups, yeah. Pups, cubs,
yeah, I don't know what wolves and babies are called. Or if they're puppies, cubs, whatever.
Yeah, either one is fine, honestly.
But he picks one of them up and holds up Lion King style. And then it cuts to, there's one final cut. It cuts to a silhouette of all the hunters coming up over a ridge. And then a pack of wolves come up along with them. And it's like, that's the origin. This tribe started, like, just breeding these dogs inside there to be hunting animals with them. That's how it happened. So yeah, it was kind of heartwarming. I did, like, start to kind of almost tear up at moments. But again, I can't give him too much credit for that because, like, yeah, you're torturing a dog. That's just going to happen with me. It's like the worst movie in the world could still have a scene where a dog looks like it's being brutally tortured. I'll be like, oh my god, stop it, no.
Yeah, it's like those horror movies where they deliberately kill off the dog.
Yeah, that's always a cheap thing.
Yeah, that's very cheap.
But yeah, so again, I would recommend this film. But I wouldn't recommend paying full price for it. It is definitely worth watching. Just, you know, if you just want to see something this weekend and you have an interest in it, and maybe you have Movie Pass or AMC, or you go to a matinee, or, you know what, fuck it. If you want to see it, go and see it. That's what my final rating is. If you want to see it, go see it. It's worth checking out if you have an interest in it. But yeah, thank you guys very much. We have one more review coming up later today for Crazy Rich Asians, so come back for that. Bye, everyone.
Bye.